Welcome to the Connected Leaders Academy virtual conference designed to reshape your vision of transformation. As we navigate the evolving business landscape, our speakers will unveil innovative strategies to manage and initiate change. Prepare to adapt, innovate, and lead, ensuring your role as a catalyst in this transformative era.
How many cages are you living in right now that you don't even see? I was 16 years old, standing in a room full of men in suits when they gave me the ultimatum that would define the rest of my life. Choose faith or choose love. You can't have both. Now let me paint you that picture. Fluorescent lights, buzzing overhead, the smell of cheap coffee and judgment hanging in the air. These weren't just any men. They were the elders of my religious community. Men who had baptized me, who had watched me grow up, who I was supposed to trust with my spiritual future. Then they discovered that I was in love, and not just any love, but love with someone they deemed unacceptable according to their interpretation of Scripture. And they gave me just a few minutes to decide. I chose love. And in that moment, I was excommunicated. I lost my family, my community, my entire world. But I gained something far more valuable. The realization that the cage I was living in wasn't reality. It was just the first cage. Over the next 2 decades, I would discover I was living in cage after cage, from religious conditioning, party escapism, addiction, 9-to-5 slave wage, corporate burnout, and financial systems designed to keep me trapped. Each time I broke free from one, I found myself in another, a slightly more sophisticated cage. How many of you have felt this? Have you ever escaped one system only to realize you're trapped in another one? Yeah, we've all been there. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of us think we're awake because we've rejected obvious forms of control. We've left the religion of our childhood. We don't watch mainstream news. We eat organic food. We practice yoga. We grow gardens. We feel enlightened. But awakening isn't about swapping one set of beliefs for another. It's about developing the capacity to question everything, especially the things that we're most certain about. Now, your brain is literally wired to keep you asleep. By the time you're in your 40s, 50s, most people automatically respond about 60% of the time. Then there's neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new pathways. It works in both ways. Every belief you accept without examination becomes a groove in your mind, right? Making it easier to accept similar beliefs and harder to question them. If you don't believe what we tell you, you'll burn forever. And trust us, this is love. Sit still, raise your hand, stop thinking for yourself. That's how you learn. Here's some other beliefs. Follow the script. School, job, mortgage, retirement. Questioning that means there's something wrong with you. Or work 40 years so you can finally live when you're too old to enjoy it. The algorithm isn't just on your phone. It's in your head. I discovered this the hard way. After leaving organized religion, I thought I was free. I could do whatever I wanted. I could buy sliced white bread and eat it all day long. Instead, I found myself trapped in a cage of chemical addiction, believing that chemicals could give me the spiritual experiences I was seeking while helping me escape the traumas of my past. Here's what 15 years of that looks like. You wake up every morning, and the first thought isn't about your dreams, your family, your purpose. It's about where you're going to get your next hit. Whether that's alcohol to take the edge off or something stronger to completely escape reality. I woke up in a fog, smoked a couple cigarettes, hit the bong. I'm ready for the day to do the same thing I did yesterday. Find ways just to get by and get high. I remember one specific morning. I was probably 26. I woke up on a friend's couch, no idea how I got there. My wallet was completely empty, my phone was dead, and I had this moment where I thought, I'm free from religious control, but I feel more trapped than I've ever been. I felt out of control, stuck living this life of addiction where as soon as I started feeling good, I would just go back out, find some trouble, and destroy some more brain cells and wake up hungover again and again and again. And the worst part, not knowing who I needed to apologize to every morning. Then came the cage of conspiracy theories, believing that knowing about corruption was the same as being free from it. I could tell you everything that was wrong with the world, every system designed to control us, every hidden agenda to keep us trapped, but I couldn't even control my own life. Each time I was just trading one form of dependency for another, one external authority for another. Real awakening isn't about finding the right beliefs, it's about developing the right process for evaluating those beliefs. You remember in the late 90s when Oxycontin were once promoted by the medical industry as safe and non-addictive chemicals or non-addictive solutions for chronic pain? I was on that bus. But instead, they fueled mass addiction, overdose deaths, and the modern opioid epidemic. So being able to examine your beliefs, it's not comfortable. Real thinking rarely is. When I was raised in a certain religion, I was told what was the truth. I had no concept or contrast of the world around me to be able to actually compare this information with anything else. So I just believed it. I took on the beliefs of my family and my community without question because I was a kid. I didn't even have the prefrontal cortex developed to even do this. And examining this is really uncomfortable. You're going against the crowd, you're going against what's easy in your brain, and the neural connections that are all set up to flow one way. Next, I'm going to tell you about the 3 pillars of true awakening. Pillar 1, the Trivium Method, your mental operating system. See, when I was addicted to drugs, I had no concept of any of this stuff. I was just floating through life, dealing with whatever came my way, often feeling like the victim because life was hard, things were unfair, and I lacked the willpower or discipline to really do anything about it. I first came across the Trivium Method just going through rabbit holes on the internet, double clicking, and I found this guy's presentation. It was teaching about a method that's been around for 1,000 years. The ancient Greeks gave us this tool so powerful that it's been deliberately removed from modern education. It's called the Trivium Method, and it's the foundation of all critical thinking. The trivium means where the 3 roads meet in Greek. And what are those 3 roads? General grammar. First, you gather data without interpretation. These are the actual facts, stripped of emotional language and bias. You just go out, gather the raw components of whatever you're researching or exploring. Now, second is Aristotelian logic. You want to analyze the relationships of that data and find patterns. What does this data actually mean? Are there any logical contradictions? What are the fallacies of this information? And then third, classical rhetoric. How to communicate clearly. How do you express your conclusions in a way that serves truth rather than your ego? So let me give you a concrete example of how this saved my life. When I was deep in addiction, I kept hearing from counselors, from friends, from family, Josh, you just need more willpower. You just need to want it more. You're just choosing drugs over your family. But then I was able to apply grammar, gathering actual data, and I found addiction literally rewires your brain's reward systems. And the logic phase showed me that willpower alone has about a 3% success rate for long-term addiction recovery. And rhetoric, that helped me communicate that to my family, that shame-based approaches that they were using it wasn't really helping. And that I needed systems, not sermons. This framework, this method, the Trivium Method, Once you've been able to gather that information, process that information, and then share that information with the outside world, it was empowering. I then came to realize that as a 10th grade dropout, I had unlimited potential. Just because I didn't graduate high school didn't mean I couldn't keep learning. I could apply this to anything and learn anything. And it was a crucial component in my awakening process. I was no longer living in a cage that I was never going to amount to anything because I didn't get a high school diploma. And I accepted that I had unlimited potential. And with this tool of being able to discern truth and learn anything, I got to work. Now, pillar 2, this one's a new one. AI as a tool for liberation. Here's where it gets interesting. We're living through the most significant consciousness revolution in human history. And the most people are missing it because they're afraid of the wrong thing. Everybody's worried that AI will replace human intelligence, human critical thinking, and the human workforce. Well, I'm here to tell you it can amplify human consciousness if you use it intentionally. Instead of spending hours researching a topic and potentially falling into information bubbles, you know what they are, and rabbit holes, I can now use AI to synthesize dozens of perspectives in seconds. I then apply the Trivium Method to then evaluate what I've learned. AI can handle the data gathering. I can focus on the thinking and what to do with it. Just last week, I got some dry ice and I was able to bring it home to my daughter. She's 7. And she was completely fascinated by it, as you can imagine. But instead of just like explaining it myself or Googling it, where we get this technical jargon, we use AI to learn how it worked together. We asked it to break down how dry ice works in a way that a 7-year-old could understand. We gathered the grammar, the components, the gases it was made of, how it keeps things cold. Then we were able to apply logic. What are the logical connections between this? How do the chemical reactions work? And basically was able to describe to her that it skips the puddle stage and just makes spooky fog. How cool is that? Then I watched her as she was able to then communicate that with her grandparents. She walked away not just with my beliefs and my limited understanding, but with a process for thinking through complex issues. And she's 7. That's critical thinking in action. But this is important. AI is only as conscious as the person using it. If you're unconscious, AI will amplify your unconsciousness. Look at what's happening with Meta and the way they're using AI. It's now reaching out to users in Messenger with AI to sell you stuff. This just happened to me last week. To steal your attention and pull it back into their networks. But if you're awake, it becomes the most powerful tool for staying awake that has ever existed other than your own intuition. The question isn't whether AI will control us, it's whether we'll develop the awareness to control AI. Now, pillar 3, that's building beyond the matrix. The final pillar is the hardest, building actual alternatives to the systems that keep us trapped. Awakening without action is just spiritual procrastination. You can meditate all day. You can know every conspiracy theory. You can have perfect critical thinking skills. But if you're still dependent on systems that contradict your values, you're not free. Real freedom looks like this. My family, we grow our own food on a homestead in Washington State. We live on a multi-generational farm with my wife's parents. My granddaughter gets to learn and grow from all of us. And we built a community network based on mutual aid rather than depending on decaying systems around us. We use technology to amplify our values rather than compromise them. And we raise our daughter to think critically, not just comply. She knows more plant identification than I probably ever will. And we run businesses from our home, designed around our values to support our lifestyle instead of someone else's bottom line. But it wasn't just some overnight transformation that we just all of a sudden popped up here. 10 years ago, we were newlyweds with a dream to find that multi-generational farm. It took us 5 years just to find the right property. Over those 10 years, my wife and I both started businesses, made a ton of mistakes, but we didn't give up. We built mutual aid groups, learned how to live in close proximity with our family members. That involves good communication. So our daughter had this support and role models, nearby. Ever since she was old enough to be able to reach up and grab the door handle, she can just open the door and walk across the driveway to grandma's house. And we started small. We started with vegetables in our backyard, then started buying from local farmers. We built relationships with our neighbors, and we found that life gets sweeter and easier when you build community. Now, this isn't about becoming a prepper or dropping out of society and going off grid, but it is about creating parallel systems that align with your awakened consciousness. Don't like wars? Don't fund them. Learn to minimize your tax burden and reduce dependency on systems that fund them. Don't like politicians making decisions for you in Washington, D.C.? Don't be dependent on the political system for your security and happiness. Seems like a no-brainer. Are you still using alcohols and substances just to take the edge off? It's time to examine that belief. It could be a form of escaping. And I'm well versed in that because I did that for 15 years and barely made it out alive. It's about building the world you want to live in, one decision at a time. Now, I'll be honest with you. Most people, when faced with the real awakening, they choose to go back to sleep because awakening is hard and terrifying at first. When you truly wake up, you realize that most of your beliefs were programmed into you. Most of your life choices were made unconsciously. And the systems that you've trusted your whole life, they've been designed to exploit you. And it's you who are responsible for changing everything. And it's way easier just to watch Netflix and stay comfy because comfortable is an easier form of, feeling safe. I spent over a decade in addiction because I couldn't handle what I was seeing. I couldn't handle my past and the trauma that I grew up in. And the gap between awakening and having the tools to build alternatives, figuring that out nearly killed me. There were nights that I sat in my car outside of liquor stores, knowing that if I went in, I might not make it out of the spiral again. But the alternative, facing the reality of how unconscious I've been, how much my life I've wasted, how much work it would take to build something real, that felt impossible. But here's what I learned. The pain of awakening fully is less than the pain of staying partially asleep indefinitely. The temporary discomfort of questioning everything is nothing compared to the permanent suffering of living alive. But here's the beautiful part. Consciousness is contagious. When you become truly awake, when you combine clear thinking with an intentional action, you give others permission to wake up too. Every conscious choice you make sends ripples through your family, your community, your business, and your associates. Every time you choose truth over comfort, authenticity over approval, you're not just freeing yourself, you're contributing to the whole awakening of everyone around you. Being a part of this event, everyone here who decides to wake up and stay awake becomes a catalyst for everybody. Your consciousness isn't just personal, it's revolutionary. Now, think about a world built by awake people. People who use the Trivium Method to think clearly and question everything. People who use AI consciously to amplify their awareness, not their unconsciousness. People who build actual alternatives instead of just complaining about a broken system. People who have the courage to live their truth, build genuine communities, and raise children who can't be programmed by external authorities. I'm looking at you, public schooling. This world doesn't require revolution. It doesn't require permission from institutions or from governments or from corporations. It requires three things: the Trivium Method for clear thinking, using AI consciously for your liberation tool, and the courage to build alternatives. That's it. Wake up and then stay awake. The 16-year-old boy who chose love over conformity didn't know he was starting a revolution. He just knew he couldn't live a lie and have that same choice. You have that same choice right now, in this moment, in every moment. The awakening, it isn't coming, it's here. And the only question is, will you join it? Your consciousness is the most revolutionary force on earth. It's time to use it.
Thank you for participating in today's enlightening session. As we transition to our next expert, remember that each strategy and insight is a step toward becoming a transformative leader in your field. Visit connectedleadersacademy.com to stay engaged and informed. The journey of change is ongoing. Let's move forward together.